Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool and Ethereum spaces. My name is Wack. Today is July 21st, and today's episode is going to cover rETH and DeFi. So we're going to be discussing where you can use your rETH. On top of that, we are going to be talking about a large NodeSet withdrawal. On the Ethereum side, we are going to be talking about the Ethereum Torch being lit. I'll explain what that is. I've got a new treasury company, updates on the existing treasury companies, and a whole lot more. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so the place to start from today is this post on the official Rocket Pool Twitter account, and this is a post telling people to go to Rocket Fuel to get news. So the Rocket Pool Twitter account says Rocket Fuel is your daily podcast covering a range of in-depth Rocket Pool and Ethereum news, hosted by WAC and funded by the Rocket Pool's protocol DAO. You can tune in on X, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And this was a link to the episode from Thursday last week. So this was actually Friday last week or some point over the last few days. But this was actually a really, really nice tweet that was put out by the Rocket Pool account. It's so touching. I think, if I can remember correctly, I think this is the first official acknowledgement of Rocket Fuel on the Rocket Pool Twitter account after nearly 600 episodes. So, well, over 600 episodes if you count on Launchpad and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this was really nice tweet that was sent out by the Rocket Pool account. So I was very touched by that. So thank you to the team for that. Okay, let's talk about DeFi. So if you want to use your rETH in DeFi, you can follow this thread and get some information and see where the best yields are. So you stake rocketpool.eth are saying that RPL DeFi bi-weekly update and the rETH is going to the moon. Make sure to check out the thread for amazing opportunities. And they've got a meme with the Coldplay cam couple. Anyway, let's have a look on L2s. So you can get, the rates aren't looking that good. They've been better in the past. You can get around 2% for rETH, wrapped ETH on Balancer. You can get around 1.78 on Beethoven. So those aren't looking too great. On mainnet, they're a little bit better. Well, significantly better if you go a little bit further out. So if you go to Balancer and if you have a pool with rETH, wrapped STETH, and Frax's SFRX ETH, you can get up to 21.15% on that. So I'm not sure what the ratios are of that pool and what allocation you have to give, but that is going to be your best bet for getting yield on your rETH. Of course, if you don't want to hold STETH or Frax's ETH, then you can get around 3% on Balancer with an rETH wrapped ETH pool there. So if you're interested in any of those yields, then check that out. Sadly, the yields aren't looking too good. I guess the ETH price movement has kind of impacted that a little bit, but maybe in the coming weeks we can start to get some good yields on these liquidity pools again. Okay, so it's been nearly 2 weeks since the elections have been, well, not just elections, but also the vote have been going. So I thought I'd give you a little update before they finish tomorrow. If anybody wants to do some last minute voting, if we have a look, this vote is going on for the IMC membership selection, and you can see that it's going to end tomorrow. So if you want to vote, now's the time to go vote. Actually, it might be better to just show you on this screen. The votes right now are Val with about 17%, Samus with about 17%, Hululo with around 14.5%, Destroyer with around 13%, Dukey bringing up the 7. Those are the 7 people who get elected with around 9.5%. And then, actually, no, sorry, that's my mistake. Dukey and then Scuzzle and Ken as well. And those are the 7 who should get elected, as things stand. So we have Dukey in around 9.5%, Scuzzle around 9.5%, and Ken on just below 9%. And then Dr. Worm and myself are bringing up the 2 positions that are not going to be elected onto the GMC at this point. But what would happen is those 2 people, myself and Dr. Worm, would end up being standbys. So if one of the first 7 people leaves, then it would come to Dr. Worm and then to me as things currently stand. And this vote is going to be finishing tomorrow. So if you have not voted yet and you want to vote, then definitely go ahead and do that. before you say, hey, Wax coming last, let's go vote for Wax, I actually said that I'm happy to be a backup. So just keep that in mind. That is a position that's totally fine with me. And then the other vote is the Saturn follow-up vote. So this vote is just to get some, admin stuff ready for Saturn. This is vote number 2 for Saturn stuff. And this is going through around. So yeah, this has hit quorum 128%, and we have 99.8% of the votes are in favor of this, and 0.2% of the votes are against this. So once again, this is going to finish in 2 days' time. So if you're interested in voting in this vote, then make sure you get it done before that time. Okay, moving on to some staking news now, and this is some news coming out of NodeSet. And one of the things that NodeSet did when they set up their Stakewise wallet was activate something called Boost that Stakewise uses. And what that does is it does an automatic looping within the protocol. And that the way that works is, you deposit your ETH, get OS ETH, and then as you press Boost, then that OS ETH is used to borrow more ETH and then deposit it, and you get more OS ETH basically. And you do that a few times to try to maximize your yield. Now, with the ETH price going as high as it has, people are using Aave to borrow ETH against one of their collaterals, probably like dollars or whatever, and then they are using that to short the market. And the APYs for borrowing ETH have gone through the roof, up to like 10-15%. I've seen up to 13%, I think. So this strategy is incredibly unprofitable right now, because the staking yield obviously is way less than 13% APY. So what's happening is people are unwinding their looped positions. So Stakewise had around 43,000 ETH leaving their stake, or signaling that they want to withdraw their stake. So yeah, it's not it's a pretty big hit. Sadly, the mechanics were such that it's just not profitable to run validators when you have this big APY, and that is going to impact the TVL, I think, of quite a lot of staking protocols. This is Stakewise here, but it'll probably be impacting protocols, up and down the list, and especially those who have more leverage. They are the ones who are going to get hit the most by this. In fact, Lido's ST-ETH actually has a small depeg on the market, because there's an exit queue right now for people trying to exit their validators, and they can't redeem the ETH quickly enough. So people are selling on the secondary market into a discount. So there's really interesting dynamics at play right now. And basically what I'm telling you is, if it's a bull market, then just be aware of what you're trying to do, and what is going to happen in that situation. It might be that towards the peak of the bull market, as people are rushing to sell their LSTs, they won't be able to get them out of staking fast enough. So it might be that you see a bunch of depegs happening on staking tokens, but that of course is just my speculation, and I don't know how things are going to go, but it's worth keeping in mind that something like that could happen. Okay, sticking with staking news, we have this update from Nethermind, and this is important release, it's mandatory release for people who are node operators of the Energy Web Chain. I have no idea what that is, but the zero hard fork of Energy Web Chain is set to the block, and then that's going to happen in August. So yeah, I think that might be a fork of Ethereum running EVM using a version of Nethermind. But yeah, otherwise, I guess this is not important to you, but yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Ethereum Torch. So as you know, the 10th birthday of Ethereum is coming up in just 10 days. So Ethereum Twitter account here said that the Ethereum Torch is lit. The Torch is an NFT honoring the people and values that have shaped Ethereum's first decade and will help build its future. It says it will be symbolically passed from wallet to wallet in the 10 days leading up to Ethereum's 10th anniversary. So this was posted yesterday, July 30th. Next Wednesday is Ethereum's 10th anniversary. And then they said the torch bearers are across the ecosystem and will hold the torch for 24 hours. And the first torch bearer will be Joe Lubin. And then on July 30th, the torch will be burned to mark Ethereum's 10th anniversary. commemorative NFT will be available that day for anyone who wants to mint it. So Joe Lubin then actually put out a post about being the first torchbearer, and he says, I'm honored to be asked to be a torchbearer in the run up to the 10th anniversary. And he went on to say that, he thinks it should have been Vitalik who was a first and last torchbearer, but this is fine. And he says that Vitalik always led by example with unimpeachable integrity, always listening broadly with an open mind and ensuring that all voices are heard and assimilated before he shares his perspective. It says the Ethereum project is anti-fragile. This first decade is about building layers of enabling infrastructure for the increasingly decentralized future of Web3. We're on the precipice of our broadband moment. And he says it now makes sense for financial institutions, enterprises, and builders to do what they couldn't under previous admin in the SEC and governmental regimes. And this Ether has had a slack supply-demand dynamic for the last few years, and that's going to be fixed now with treasuries and ETFs. And the 10th anniversary coincidentally will mark our moment of ignition as we launch into widespread mainstream awareness. So this was a really nice post by Joe Lubin, and you can go ahead and read that. And I'm curious to see who the next torchbearer was going to be. I've got a couple of guesses of some of the people along the way, but I think the last one, of course, I think will be Vitalik. So that's really cool. Okay, and talking about exchange ETH Treasury vehicles, there was an announcement of a huge new one launching earlier on today, and this is the Ether Machine. So they said, we are the Ether Machine. Today we launched the largest public vehicle ever built to own and manage ETH with over $1.5 billion in committed capital. This is Ethereum's institutional chapter, not passive, not synthetic, not outsourced. So they are saying that, they give a reason. They explain what this is. This is a treasury vehicle, but it's an active one. So they'll be using their ETH. And then they explain why Ether. So they're saying that, in terms of value secured by chain, there's nothing that compares to Ether. And then they think Ether is the productive digital oil. So that is very much like the etherealized message that they're sending out. So this is, why do we build something new? Because the old options weren't good enough. And they kind of explain on how they're not tourists and how they've been around in Ethereum from the beginning. And they have some backing from some really interesting people. But yeah, they're going to be coming in with $1.5 billion worth of buying Ether, which is just an astronomical amount. And that's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. And then here, Pantera was one of these people who were backing it. So Pantera backed the Ether Machine goes public, and they're going to launch with 400,000 ETH. So if we look at the strategic ETH reserve, that if they get 400,000 ETH, that would actually put them to the top of the list, which is just a huge amount of ETH. However, I think in the next couple of days, we'll be getting updates from the treasury amounts from Sharplink and Bitmine and others, and that number will likely change. So that 400,000 number, might get them straight to almost to the top of the list. But it's going to be a challenge for them to stay there, because there's a whole lot of competition from those guys who have already taken the lead. Okay, and talking about other ETH Strategy vehicles, there's actually like ETH Strategy. So this is the on-chain one with Ethereum aligned, like all that kind of good stuff. And they are now going to their public sale. So they have already got, I think, 7,900 ETH, somewhere around that kind of amount. And now they're doing a public round. So this is, we value DeFi for open access and equal opportunities to projects. So as DeFi protocol, ETH Strategies first needs deep on-chain liquidity to kickstart our ETH compounding flywheel, foundation secured by the private pre-sale. So it says, learn about the protocol prior to the public sale, please read our docs. So they said that what they're going to do is they have pre-salers purchased Strat at 1 ETH is 10,000 Strat with tokens locked for 6 months post-launch. So it says this capital will seed the initial liquidity needed, and after that you can A public sale will be 1 ETH for 10,000 Strat tokens and contribute ETH and purchase Strat with a 4-month lockup and 2-month linear unlock. And then that will be in the form of an NFT that you get that's minted on chain. And the public window for the public round will be 24 hours only, and we reserve the right to close early if we deem oversubscribed. So why the cap? This is this sale is not creative to EPS, and the ETH strategy does not need to sell more Strat at this sale price, and the protocol prefers future Strat distribution to occur via creative dilution mechanics once we go live, which will grow EPS. So the greed before you ape, your ETH is non-refundable. You will be vested. Don't participate if you don't understand the terms. So the public sale will go live and posted within days of this thread. Do not fall for scam links and pre-sale links. And it says we reserve the absolute right to amend, pause, shorten, extend, or cancel the pre-sale at any time. And then they said that the pre-sale is not intended to offer of financial products, securities, or other regulated instruments in any jurisdiction. And then there's prohibited people. So people who are citizens or permanent residents of the US are not eligible for this. And then there's other things as well. And by interacting with the pre-sale smart contract, you represent and warrant that you are not a prohibited person, blah, 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 all that good stuff. So yeah, the way it works, the way that I'm thinking it works is basically they'll have a token. And as people buy that token, then they will mint more of that token. And then as the mint token gets sold, they will use that to buy ETH. So it's the same kind of idea where they're, publishing shares to get ETH. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on, definitely. It's very interesting mechanisms that they're using. So let's have a look at an update of the other treasury companies, what they're doing. So Anthony Sassano here says it's only Monday and we've already had 3 big ETH treasury announcements. So the ETH machine launched, going up to 400,000 ETH. Then BTCS made an announcement that they have bought over 20,000 ETH. So now they go up to 55,788 ETH. And then GSQ Holdings have bought 8,351 ETH. So now they are above 10,000 ETH that they're holding. So that's a nice little update from Sassel there. BTCS, however, are not just doing ATM stuff. So they're not just printing new shares. They are also selling convertible debt. So here Charles says we just wrapped up one of the most impactful weeks for BTCS in our history. On Friday, they had $30 million raised via the ATM near the top of the market. So that is really nice. That is, the money for a whole lot of ETH that they could get with that. And then we said that they sold the shares at around $7.90 average price. This is, we could have stopped there, but we didn't. So what they did after the close is they kicked off a $10 million convertible deal. By 4 a.m. Saturday, we were grinding through the docs. So by Monday, it was inked. So they got $10 million. So it's a 200% premium to market. And zero banker fees, estimated $750,000 in savings. So what this does is they're selling future shares of BTCS at around, I think, $13 to raise that $10 million. So they're going, they're really pushing ahead. And it says for the math geeks, they ran an apples to apples comparison between the ATM and the convertible debt. And it says the debt wins hands down, but it has to be done right with the whole picture in mind. So it's the 200% premium pricing, no banking fees or tail terms, future flexibility preserved. We're building value, not just raising capital. So yeah, they're pushing along. So it says that we're not just coasting after our $30 million raise. Our shareholders deserve more, and they're going to keep pushing on. So yeah, that's really, really interesting stuff. So congratulations to BTCS and all the others. Okay, we got some interesting Ethereum people in the media. So one of the big things that people were complaining about in the past is that we don't have good people representing Ethereum in media. And this was shown, when the merge was being covered, we had Anthony Pompliano, who was a big Bitcoiner, who actually went on there and shilled Solana on the day of Ethereum's merge. So just shows you what, the horrible quality of talking heads was regarding Ethereum in the public media. And here, we had a Paul Brody, who works with EY, formerly Ernst Young, and he has been huge in blockchain for many, many years. He's a stalwart of the old ETH finance community, and now our Ethereum on Reddit. And he just knows his Ethereum inside and out, and is just like really, really great person to have on talking about Ethereum. And one of the things that I really like that he said in this is that Ethereum will be bigger than Bitcoin. He believes in the flippening, which I definitely believe in the flippening too. But he was just very sensible, very smart, generally bullish comments about Ethereum, which is exactly what we want to hear. People who are informed and know what they're talking about. And of course, now the number of people who will go on these media productions talking about Ethereum is growing. We have, people like Joe Lubin and Tom Lee and Paul Brody and a whole bunch of others who are now kind of stepping up and being like, hey, I'm capable of coming on and talking about Ethereum, and I know exactly what I'm talking about, so get me on. And this is like a huge change. So it was really great to see Paul Brody on CNBC. Good stuff. Okay, Mark here has been working on how to change the Ethereum block building process, and what we could do to make it better. And this is like a following work from the work that he was doing about ePBS. He said the debate on ePBS is so frustrating, and there's different people who say screw ePBS, no one is concerned about relays right now, or CPBS, ePBS, some nice properties, but surely we can cherry pick those and leave the rest behind, or go through several modifications consider each one. And after walking through all the subtleties, I guess ePBS really is the best proposal. Okay, it makes fossil easier too. It's better for chain stability. Yeah, I guess we should do ePBS. So Mark is one of the people who have been working on ePBS stuff quite a lot and is a big champion of ePBS. So he actually went away and he says that I've done 2 months worth of work, restructured into a matrix. So we actually have a look at the matrix. These are different ideas he has of what kind of block restructuring works. And, here we have the different properties and the different suggestions. And the one that, according to Mark, really wins out is this one, which is EIP 7732 block auction dual deadline PTC. So it has all these factors, green check marked, and only one of them is a red check mark. So that is the strongest one out of all of them, according to Mark. Now, the question is is Mark or are others going to be capable of pushing ePBS on Fossil to the top of the list for Glamsterdam? At this moment in time, it looks like core devs are supporting that line of thinking as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But if you want to kind of delve into this, you can follow the links below and get that information. Okay, so we had the gas limit, has been targeted to be increased by a whole lot of validators, and Vitalik here shared this tweet yesterday talking about how this is actually happening now. So Vitalik says almost exactly 50% of stake is voting to increase the L1 gas limit to 45 million. The gas limit is already starting to increase. And at the time that Vitalik took this screenshot, it was at 37,300,804. So that was really, really cool stuff. And then we actually got gas was creeping up on so much that here this image that Trooper shared shows that it actually hit the 45 million target. So it took hours for it to go upwards. However, looking at the gaslimit.pix website, it looks like we haven't quite hit 50% of node validators on signaling 45 million. You can see here it's around 48.6%. So I'm not sure how that's happened. Maybe the data here on gas limit picks is a little bit out of date because the gas limit is actually going up, which of course is really, really awesome to see. So yeah, that should be confirmed ASAP now. So Ethereum just increased block capacity by 25% right there. So awesome stuff. So on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. Thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all had a lovely weekend, and here's to another bullish week ahead. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.